In life, there are those who win and there are those who whine. And if you want to change your life in an instant so you can win more often, there are three things you can do. You can change how you use your body, you can change where you focus your attention, and third is you can change your internal dialogue. Today, I want to highlight the internal dialogue or the self-talk side of things and show you and highlight really 5 self-talk statements that separate winners from whiners in life. Okay, so the first self-talk statement that whiners tend to have is the following. There's no way I can insert blank. There's no way I can do this. There's no way I can come up with the money to pay for this. There's no way I can do this because of X, Y, or Z. That is what holds a lot of people back. And if you think about it, it's a very limiting statement. It's not even a question. It's a statement where like a brick wall is put in front of them that shows no possibility of any type of solution. It's a very closed-minded, non-growth oriented statement. By contrast, winners ask the question, how can I do this? Or they make a statement straight up saying, I can do this. Because when you ask a question like, how can I? It's not that you have the solution, but it allows your brain and subconscious mind to figure it out, as opposed to, there's no way. There's no way I can do this. It's just no way. Right? I want to share a story with you. So one of our clients, Kevin, started working with us a number of years ago, and he was fairly early on in his journey. And at the time he was making about $800 a month, hadn't really coached many clients. And he said, he's like, hey man, like I want to work with you. And I told him, I'm like, hey man, we typically work with people a little bit further along. I think you're too early. And his response was, no, watch me, which is essentially, I can do this. And guess what happened? 18 months later, he went from making $800 a month to building $1 million plus business. Several years later, he's doing multiple 7 figures. Now, is it because of my amazing strategy and our amazing team's coaching? Not really, to be honest. I mean, obviously the stuff we do works. The difference in this situation is Kevin. It's who he is. And this is the thing I want you to understand, is that winners always find a way to win, okay? It's not about the tactic or the strategy. That stuff can definitely help. But if you put a great driver in a good car, they will do very well. If you put a terrible driver in a good car, they're gonna crash it. Do you understand the difference there? I hope so. So the second statement is, I know this already. I know this already. I'm not learning anything new here. And this one drives me crazy because if you knew how to do what it is you say you know how to do, then you would have already done it. If you're not doing it, you don't know it. And that's something I do my best to live by. Okay, so I want to share a funny example with you. So we had some guy come into our program a little while ago and very quickly decided to drop out because he said that what we were offering he could do with AI. And I was like, really? That's the first time I've heard that. Because my thinking is that you would have already done it, but you haven't, therefore you don't know how to do it. And that type of statement is exactly why people do not succeed in business and do not succeed in life. Because they think to themselves, I know this already. And it's not about I know this already. The question that winners ask is, how well am I doing this? How well am I doing this? Because there is a very big distinction between what we think is the same, but obviously the results are very different. Let me give you an example. Most people know how to drive. Doesn't mean they're good drivers, right? Most people know how to cook. Doesn't mean they're all good cooks. Most businesses are mediocre because they don't understand the importance of mastering the fundamentals. So instead what they're doing is they're repeatedly jumping from one tactic to the next because they didn't have enough discipline to execute every single day on the boring, basic fundamentals that work. So instead they jump into ChatGPT and they're like, oh, this can write my emails. You don't get it. You don't get it. This is something that's very hard for some people to understand, is when you know something, it's really about understand, don't explain. I can't explain to someone why what they're about to do, i.e. build their business with ChatGPT, is fundamentally a very different outcome than working with experts who collectively have almost a century of experience and wisdom, helping thousands of clients generate hundreds of millions of dollars in their business. And a lot of people don't understand this. And I'll give you another analogy. When I took my McLaren 720 on the track last summer, I was out on a driving day with McLaren and I drove the car around the track a few times. I was giving her going, 200 kilometers an hour down the straights and, taking the turns. It was great. Then I had one of the instructors sit in the driver's seat and he gave me some pointers. And I was like, cool, now I know what my car is capable of. Or so I thought, because then I had him drive the car. And holy shit, what a difference it made. I had no clue what my car was capable of until an expert who had driven that track thousands upon thousands of times took the wheel of the car and floored it. I'm talking about going through turns. I was taking it 80 kilometers an hour. He was taking it 160 kilometers an hour in fourth gear, one-handed, no problem. And this is the fundamental difference between those who continually fail in life, is that they don't understand there is a massive difference between you driving the car and what you think it's capable of and what a professional driver can show you what it's capable of. It's the same thing in your business or with your clients. They think, oh, I know how to do that already. No, you don't. You're 500 pounds and you sit on the couch all day. You don't know shit. Again, if you don't do it, you don't know it. So the conversation, if you have prospective clients that are like, well, I know that already. I've heard this already. Why aren't you doing it? Because you don't know it if that's the case. And if all I did was tell you to drink a liter of water every single day, even though you know how to do that already, you're not doing it. So it would be an amazing investment for you to pay me to keep you accountable to doing that. It's not about this new water has magical crystalline properties that's going to help you melt fats. No. It's the same boring tap water, drink it, do it every day, here's how. That's it. And that's why people pay for coaching. They're not coming for information, they're coming from transformation. You're not necessarily having to sell new stuff, you just need to get people you're working with to do the stuff they say they already know, but just aren't doing it. Cool? So again, it's not about I know this already. Winners ask themselves, how well am I executing on this? The third self-talk statement is the following. I'm just gonna test it out. That's what whiners, how they approach life. I'm gonna just dip my toe in the water. Nah, it's a little bit cold, a little bit hot. I'm just gonna, what's the worst thing that happens? I dip my toe and I leave, no big deal. What winners say is, they're like, screw it. I'm diving into the pool and I'm gonna figure it out. I'm gonna make it work no matter what. The reality is that nothing happens until a commitment is made. When I was working with Dan Sullivan, who's an amazing human and a tremendous coach, runs Strategic Coach, he walked us through this 4C model. And it was very simple. If you wanna become more confident in any endeavor, that's the outcome, right? Whether it's growing a business, speaking on the phone with prospects, working out, speaking a different language, we all want to be confident because confidence is the byproduct or the fourth step after capability. Capability, think of it as competence. You do something over and over again, you get good at it. What comes before capability? Before capability is courage. Courage is, I don't know how to do this thing. I'm afraid of doing this thing, but I'm going to do it anyways. Courage doesn't feel good. Confidence does. That's the difference. So we go from courage, right? Taking a leap, having some faith in yourself, committing and figure things out, to I'm building capabilities, and as a result of it over and over again, I have confidence. But it all starts with commitment. You make a commitment. I will do this thing. I'm not sure what it looks like, which requires courage to cross the bridge. Commitment, courage, capability, confidence. It doesn't work backwards. I think there's a tremendous amount of power in creating leverage over yourself. Most people are not gonna do anything in life unless there's enough leverage to move you forward. So when you don't commit to something, what's the worst that happens? Nothing. You have no skin in the game, you back out, you can't fail. But as soon as you jump in the pool, well, maybe you can't swim. Maybe you look a little bit ridiculous. Until you dive into the pool, nothing is moving forward for you. Nothing. Commit first, figure out the rest later. Number 4, if you ever have a prospective person, a client ask you, what is this gonna cost me? That's not the right question. I mean, it's a fair question, that's fine, but if the focus is there all the time, like, what's this gonna cost me? What's this gonna cost me? Do I have enough money? Blah, blah, blah. It's the wrong question. It's the wrong area of focus. It's the wrong self-talk. Winners identify, yeah, like, what's the cost? Cool, we have to know what the price is. All right, we're aware of that, but we don't live there. Instead, winners, we ask this question. What is this going to cause me? What is this going to cause me? So let's say that you have a client who, or a prospective client who's like, all right, what's the price here? You're like $5K for this program. They're like, oh, I gotta think about it. Like as they're thinking about it and they're like meditating on it, cause they don't make a decision on the spot, like whatever the excuses are, what they're thinking about is they're thinking about this. This is gonna cost me $5,000. That's it. That's all they're thinking about. What if this doesn't work out? Oh my God, I might lose my money. Blah, 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 blah. Blah, 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 blah. The what winners do is they identify, yeah, okay, it's gonna cost me this, but what is this gonna cause me? Well, if I get this thing dialed in, if I do this thing, if I invest in my health, what is this going to give me as a payoff? So winners don't obsess about the price, they obsess about the payoff. You see the difference there? One of our clients, Ryan, he's a chiropractor, functional medicine practitioner. He had done a bunch of stuff. He was just like, I'm sick of this. He came across our ads online, watched our webinar, and he was not in a good place financially. So he could have very easily said, well, what's this gonna cost me? And focus on that. But what did he do? He took out a loan to pay for our coaching. Because what he focused on was, what was this going to cause him? 4 months later, he went from literally negative to doing $358,000 per month. In June of that year, by the way, this is during lockdowns in 2020, building his virtual practice online by June. So this is about 7 months after he started. He was doing more than $1 million per month in his coaching business. 2 years later, they routinely do over $3.2, $3.5 million per month. And this is the difference between winners and whiners. Winners understand the price, but they focus on the payoff. Because if you think about it, what's the worst thing that can happen? If someone invests to work with you, let's call it $5,000, what's the worst case scenario? The worst thing that happens is they lose $5,000. Is that the end of the world? Are they gonna live on the street? Are they gonna be stoned by their family? Probably not. And you can have this conversation with them, but what's the payoff? And more importantly, let me just backtrack for a second. You identify the worst case scenario. Can you live with the downside? All right, I lose $5,000. Can I live with that? Yeah, I'm not gonna die. It's gonna be fine. I sell my house. I'm not gonna live on the streets. My family will be okay. I can still put food on the table. It's not gonna be good, but I can live with it. Second question is, what is the likelihood of that happening? Just think about this logically. The easiest way to overcome fear is use logic. What is the likelihood of me investing $5,000 in this coach and then disappearing, scamming me, taking all my money? What is the likelihood of someone who has good integrity and a seemingly legitimate business doing that to you? Sadly, there are some people who get burned and have a bad experience in whatever. That's fine. But what's the likelihood that someone's just going to take off? The likelihood is pretty slim. What's the likelihood that you're not going to show up and do the work? That's a different story, which is why it's also important to, or have your clients show up and do the work so they actually get the most out of their investment. Now, the second question is, are you willing to pay the price to get the payoff? And I'm not just talking about the 5K. So for your client, prospective client, they're thinking it's going to cost 5K, but it's not just the financial cost. It's the change they have to go through. It's the stuff they have to change that they're currently doing. And there's pain associated with that. So is the juice worth the squeeze? Make sense? And this is where you have, fundamentally, if you don't have the desire to do something, you're not gonna do it. But let's say you do. The difference between those who move forward and win in life is they constantly come back to the payoff. The payoff. I understand the price, payoff. And this is very important when you are in the journey as well. Because the journey of anything, learning a new language, learning how to ride a bike, learning how to walk, learning how to build a business, learning how to become a medical doctor, learning how to whatever, is not like this. You've gone through the process in some aspect of your life already. The process looks like this. And there are moments where you're like, this is the best. And then the next couple of days, you're like, I'm gonna jump off a bridge. It's called The Dip. There's a great book by Seth Godin called The Dip. Read it, it's really good. So you're in the dip. What do you do here? Well, this is where most people give up. And what they do, instead of moving through the dip, what do? They jump to the next thing. And because they haven't mastered the fundamentals here, I know that already. They go to the next thing. And guess what happens there? Yay, and then they're back in the dip. And guess what happens at the dip once again? They jump to the next thing. And they keep repeating that pattern, and that's why they lose in life. Are you starting to see this? I hope you understand like these fundamental patterns that you have the complete ability to change in a second by recognizing them and doing something about it. So when we're in the dip, it's about recognizing this sucks, but I understand it's temporary. The payoff, my vision, my goal, this is worth it. I'm gonna do the work. Focus on the why. And this is what successful people do, is they don't focus on the price, they focus on the payoff. You acknowledge the price, it is what it is. That's the price to pay to unlock the payoff. Got it? And the fifth self-talk statement that separates whiners from winners is the following. I just gotta get some stuff lined up. I will get started when my ducks are in a row. Here's what winners say. Fuck the ducks. They fly south in the winter anyways. You gonna wait for them to come back from Florida and get started? No. This goes back to commit first, figure out the rest later. Winners understand that there is no perfect time to do anything. Let me ask you this. When is the perfect time to have kids? When is the perfect time to get married? When is the perfect time to start a business? When is the perfect time to get in shape? When is the perfect time to do anything? The answer in most cases is There is no perfect time, so just start now. There's a famous saying that says, the best time to plant an oak tree was 10 years ago, the second best time is right now. And I believe that if you're somebody who wants to achieve stuff in life and not live with regrets, then I really hope you understand this, is that we will not change unless the pain of our situation becomes painful enough. I've talked about this in many of my videos. When the pain of change is here and the payoff is here, we're not changing, okay? But when the pain of change is down here and your payoff is up here, we're done, we're moving, okay? So I want you to think about how this operates in life. And I want you to think about in the context of the people coming to work with you, the reason why they're, let's say, booking a discovery call to you is because something's happened in their life and they can't take it anymore. Something happened yesterday. The reality is that we have to find ways to get leverage over ourselves, because the human condition is we're okay coasting for the most part. It takes a tremendous amount of mindfulness and focus to constantly be focused on your situation not being what you want it to be in the midst of living in a good situation. My life is pretty good. I have to find ways to put myself in very uncomfortable situations so that I have massive amounts of leverage on myself to move forward. Because the problem with living in North America is that life is okay, but living okay is a depressing life. When I was playing soccer in Brazil when I was 17 years old, I was down there with Sao Paulo FC, and I remember being on the bus one day going to training, and I was talking to these Brazilian kids who are just the nicest people on the planet, and they were telling me it was football, soccer, or the favelas, the slums. Soccer or the slums. That was it. There was no plan B, there's no plan C, there's no, I'm gonna go live with daddy, I'm gonna go like, no. They either played pro soccer or they lived in the slums. That's called leverage. In North America, if you don't play soccer, like growing up, I wanted to play pro. So if I didn't play pro, well, I could have got a job and I could have gone to this school and I could have done this and it would have been okay. And that's the fundamental problem. Obviously it's great because we have that safety net, but we do not get the most out of ourselves when we are comfortable. And that's why when we talk about getting our ducks in a row, especially with your business, like I want you to think about a way where you are where you are. If you're not where you want to be, I want you to figure out how you can get really uncomfortable about that gap. Because you can appreciate what you have, you can appreciate the journey so far, but if you're here and you know you want to be here and you've been saying you want to be here for a couple of years, you have to find a way to get massive leverage over yourself to no longer tolerate that gap. And I don't know what that's gonna look like for you, okay? You might have to play some tricks with your mind or whatever. But let me put it this way. If your kids were kidnapped, would you do whatever you needed to do to bridge the gap from where you are to where you wanna go? You would find a way to do it, like no matter what. Like you wouldn't even think twice, right? If you were given 30 days to live, unless you started working out today and every single day after that, would you do it? 100%. Because the leverage over top of you, the consequence of not doing so is so great that you're like, fuck the ducks. I'll figure this out as I go forward. And I'll give you the easiest way. Hire a coach, pay them a lot of money. Done. Money is the biggest lever for most people. If we traded donkeys, it would be donkeys, but it's money. If money is something very valuable to you, then give it to someone else and have them keep you accountable to you achieving your goals. This is why clients who come to work with us get better results than if they didn't pay us. It's really simple. It's the same reason why the people that you are working with, them paying you money, just that alone is a big reason why they will get great results. And the more they pay, the more they'll pay attention. Why? Because there's even more leverage on top of them. And I understand it's uncomfortable, maybe you don't have the money. The very fact that you don't have the money to invest in hiring a coach is exactly why you should hire a coach. That's exactly why I hired my first coach. In 2010, I was making like poverty line income for three and a half years. The investment to hire my coach was more money than I made in the previous year in business. Was that comfortable? No. Did I know what it was gonna look like? No. Did I have my ducks in a row? No. What I did do is I committed first and I was gonna figure out the rest later. I didn't say I can't do this. I said I will do this no matter what, because now I've committed. I have leverage over myself and I can't let this just go to waste. This was a good sum of money for me. I had to make it work, and it was the best decision I ever made, because I wouldn't be here without that initial decision that became the inflection point for all my growth. So I understand, like whatever situation you're in, no one is going to get great results on their own compared to what they would get with a coach. I'm not saying you have to work with me, but just find someone that resonates with you, that has proven results, that shares similar values as you, and give them your money. Because in exchange, they will help you grow 10 times faster to get where you want to go. So anyways, those are the 5 self-talk statements that separate winners from whiners. Before we finish off, number 1, I would love to know from you in the comments below, which of these self-talk statements resonates most with you? Love to hear your thoughts. And then second, if you've enjoyed this, remember to hit that subscribe button wherever it is, somewhere around here, because I've got tons of other videos to help you grow a successful business online. Thank you for hanging out with me. Be sure to check out the next video. It's going to be over here. If you've liked this, you'll probably really enjoy that one as well. Thanks so much.